All right, guys, and we are live. All right, so to anyone who's new here, my name is Terence, and welcome to the Artcore live stream. It's Study with Artcore every Wednesday. We just came back into swing of things after all the holidays. We've been out for a while. Um, but anyways, my name is Terence. I'm the interactive admin for Artcore, and I've been a concept artist and illustrator for 5 years now. And today we're going to go ahead and we're going to get back into working with our character design and what we were doing with this one. If you guys missed the last one, what we were doing, or if you guys just don't remember, it was like 3 weeks ago. So we're just getting back into it, but we were kind of simulating how it was to actually work in the industry and working with with a art director breathing down your neck all the time and telling you to make changes and doing things. And um, so what we decided to do was we were brand new concept artists, and we finally landed our dream job working for Bethesda, and we got to work on a new main character for the Elder Scrolls. So basically, what this is one of the main like a sidekick character that maybe in this new world you can call up on the friends that you meet throughout the world. You can call them up and they spawn next to you, and you start fighting with them. They start helping you along with their things. So this is one of, like the main ones that you would call a lot, or maybe it's like the first one that you meet. Um, in our character bio, let me go and open this back up because I didn't have that opened. Oops. All right, so this was our character bio here, and what it was is we had his name was Jace McMillan, which is just a name that we made up real quick. His age was from 20s to 30s. He has a sarcastic mood, and like I said, he is the main psychic player. But the main thing that we had to capture was his sarcasm, his age, and the fact of the hard thing that we had to. Our challenge was creating something for an already done IP, so we had to make it look like it fit in the Elder Scrolls world, while also being something new and something fresh, and not just another ones and millions characters that you're around with. I'm going to pull that off here. And I actually messed up my, where did that go? Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why, but it just completely screwed up my tab when I did that. What? And we're going to get back to it. Wow. Where did it go? There we go. Sorry about that. I don't know how that got screwed up, but that was completely screwed up on my end. All right, so anyways, we're going to go back into it here. And where we left off before was we were just working with a small silhouette. We had this very rough silhouette here, and actually it was actually this guy here. And because of time restraints, usually we're going off. We'd have like a few different silhouettes that our art director would choose, and he'd say, hey, we like this one the best. Go with this one. So then our director approved this one. So now we had to go in and start working it and refining it a bit more. And so what we did was we started working a little bit more, and then so all I did was I lightened the opacity a little bit so I can draw on top of it, and just did some rough line work just to kind of figure out where everything was. Nothing super super detailed, but it's to a point where you can tell what everything is, for more or less. And this is another one of those steps where if we were working in the industry, we'd actually have like maybe 3 or 4 different styles based off of the same silhouette. We'd maybe have 3 or 4 different options within this, but because of time restraints, we're going to go with this one. Um, from where we left off before, there was something missing off stream. I was looking at it. I was saying, it's not something's missing to put it into the Skyrim world. So what we did was we add some more fur over here. I'm gonna go into my bright red here so you guys can see it. So we add some more fur elements here and there. And we were thinking about maybe, we added in this weapon here from the Elven race, how they had that little dark, cool dagger here. I think I have my reference right here. Yeah, we added this guy in here. Just so we can do something with that and do it that way. And we also added in some face paint because that was a big thing in Skyrim, was all the face paints. And it's a good way we can add some things to the character without having to go super overboard. So to going in with this one, so our art director, he approved it. We're all set to go. Now we just get to work on this guy and get to figure out what we're going to be doing. And welcome to everybody. I know everyone's starting to pour in now and starting to get active in the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. We'll talk about it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this guy. I'm just freelancer. I work with a lot of indie companies because there's a certain freshness in doing that where I feel personally that when you're working with the indie company, there's a lot more passion in there because they're all there, they're putting their heart and soul into it. Versus when you're working with the big companies, I'm not saying this goes for everything, but the big companies, they already have the funds together and they're to the point they're trying to appease the audience and trying to get what they have the pressure from everybody to do what everyone's looking for. Then with indie companies, they're just want to do what they had in their head and they just want to produce a good thing that they would play. And that's something I've always respected of indie companies versus bigger companies. But I've recently been kind of going off the grid and kind of doing my own things and setting up like these Twitch streams and streams like this. So I haven't done a lot of client work for a couple months now. I've been kind of out of it, just trying to do stuff like this. I've been lucky enough to be able to do this stuff without really hurting myself financially. I've been still stable, so I've been able to just kind of focus on this for you guys. So let's go ahead and since we got this rough sketch down, what I'm going to do is we're going to zoom out and we're going to make a new layer. You know what I'm going to do actually? I'm going to duplicate this, combine them, and we're going to make a group of that just of preliminary stuff. And this is going to be one flat image here. And we don't need these notes anymore. I want to erase that. And usually, guys, I would have this guy, bigger on the canvas. I'd have him, I'm pointing to the screen like you guys can actually see my fingers. I'd have this guy expand over more of the canvas or cut the canvas short around it just so I can get the most pixels and, the biggest overall use of the canvas. But because we're doing this for a demonstration, I'll tend to do things exactly like this and actually, draw outside of it. So that's why I'm keeping so much space in between. Usually I condense it down a lot. So let's go ahead and even though we just duplicated it so we can have it on its own layer, I'm going to duplicate it again just so just in case I mess anything up, I can quickly go back to it. And I'm just duplicating by Control J, if you guys didn't know that. What I'm going to do is transparency lock it so I can't paint outside of what's already there. And I'm going to use a big airbrush. And I'm just going to start figuring out where the light source is going to be. Because this is straight concept design, we don't have to worry about doing like a super crazy lighting situation. We just want to do whatever shows off what we want to insinuate most. So we're probably going to do just a straight up, don't have to go outside there. Just kind of a straight up view, kind of downward, kind of showing that off, or we can go from the other side to show off the chest a little bit more. Recommend sites to find any companies to work with. What's it called? DevMap, GameDevMap.com, I think it is. Hold on, let me pull it up. Oops. Let me pull this over so you guys can see this here. Yeah, indie game. It's just called GameDevMap.com, and all this is it just shows a bunch of different um, ways. Just different. You can browse by country, so we can even go just because around. We'll just do Canada, just for the hell of it. And you can go by states, provinces, and then you can even go by types of companies like mobiles, developers, organizations, publishers, all that fun stuff. And you just click on it, and it just links you directly to their page. There's some pages, like I think that one. There's some of them that are outdated and actually are not. They're not active anymore, and they're just a dead website. But most of these are real, so it's good to just to come up. You can send a quick email saying, "Hey, looking for some work. If you guys, here's my portfolio. Please consider me if you have any open positions." Done. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to talk to you back because it's a cold call for a reason. But you never know; they may come back and say, "Hey, I really like your stuff. I happen to see your email. Let's go ahead and let's start working together." And the reason why I like this one is because it shows almost every single company that's out there. I didn't know because I live in Arizona, and I did not think there was anything in Arizona. There's actually 3 or 4 companies out here. Um, they're nothing. They're nothing super big, nothing super special, but they do release some of the Facebook games and some of the mobile games that are popular out there. So yeah, I wouldn't know that unless I went here. Um, you can try DeviantArt. Uh, you gotta be careful with DeviantArt though. If there's a lot of people that really lower the expectations of pricing for art, like you'll see people doing full-blown illustrations for $5 or $10. That's not gonna work. Um, but there are some legitimate people on there. I've gotten a few good things from DeviantArt, and Unity is a good one too. If you do a lot of UI stuff or graphic design type stuff, you can go into Unity and go into community, and you can start a forum. There's forums right here, and they have their own job board forum over here, and that's really good for things too. And you know what? I managed to break YouTube again. Sorry, guys. Breaking YouTube. I can't see the chat. Hop up over here. There we go. Yeah, exactly what Fox did. We can't put any actual links in there. So I was trying to show it to you so you guys can kind of pull it off. But it's just GameDevMap.com, the Unity forums, or it's just the Unity engine, and then DeviantArt, which I'm sure you guys know. So we're gonna go ahead and get back into this here. Like I said, we're probably gonna be doing. Probably gonna be doing this one just because it shows off the chest piece and all right here pretty well. Alright, let's go and erase all that stuff off there. Fresh, turn our opacity setting on, and our what's it called? Just pressure sensitivity, I think it is. Or the one that makes it have a little tail at the end. Let's see. And why aren't you letting me paint? Apparently it's not going to let us paint it. So, okay. So we're going to do it a different way. All right. Any ideas on organizing your art studying, like perspective and whether to do it in days or month intervals, and how do you incorporate topics so nothing lacks and intertwines nicely? That one's a hard one because you're going to hear from everyone. They'll say, you're not going to like it, just study. I just go by what I happen to be interested most in, or what I happen to notice is lacking at the time. So if like I'm drawing a bunch of characters and I realize, maybe my chest aren't, maybe my chest cavity area, maybe that's not working very well. I'll go back and I'll just start studying anatomy again, or maybe I'm working on a piece and I realize that my perspective is off. I'll go in and I'll start doing some more perspective things. Um, the problem with doing the problem with artists as ourselves is we're never really happy with our work, or we'll be happy with it for maybe a month, and then after that we're gonna start nitpicking and seeing all the problems that are in it. So we personally are always gonna see ourselves as lacking in something, which in a way is good because then we're always improving. But you're never gonna get to a point where like, yeah, my perspective is down, yeah, my anatomy is down, I can do it perfectly, because deep down you're always going to say, maybe I could have done that a little bit better. Um, some things are more justified than other, like perspective. Perspective, you can pretty much know, how things are going to be. There's only so much you can do with it, but even so, there's still going to be some little nitpick you're going to say, like maybe this line wasn't exactly the right angle it could be. So just study what you seem to feel like you're lacking at that point in time, or if you feel like there's a lot of, like maybe you're first starting and you realize you're lacking in your character design and your perspective at the same time. Just pick one you think you'd be more interested in at the time. Do you feel like you're really interested in perspective at the moment? Then just go for perspective, because in my personal experience, it's not gonna sink in, and you're not gonna really learn it if you're not interested in doing it. If you're just doing it because in the back you have to do it, it's not gonna work. And that's why school never worked for me, because I hated doing math, and that's why I can't do math for anything until I started having to use math in real life, and I started sitting down and go, hey, I want to know how to count money really well. So then I sat down and I was able to count money really well, because at that point in my life, I wanted to learn how to do money. And it's the same thing with art. You're gonna have to just pick whatever you're interested in at the moment. Oh, and before I got onto that topic, and you're welcome, Nico. For some reason, I don't know why it happened, but when I'm doing the transparency lock, it didn't let me paint on this guy as much as I want to in all the spaces. I think that's because he's actually between. He's not all the layers, and I don't know. I don't know what happened. Like you see how sometimes it's right here, but it's cutting off right there. Um, I'm not going to be. This is still the beginning stages, so I'm not harping too much on that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to know the way to work around it, which I just made that new layer on top of it, and we can select it and cut off of it later if we go out the lines. And that's all I'm trying to do, is I'm just trying to make it easier to not get out of the lines, um, because I'd rather cover too much than miss a step. And as far as lighting goes, all I'm thinking about right now is what's casting, the overall subsurface shadow. So if this light is coming from here, just an example, I know the main highlights are going to be right where that. I know that's going to come down. It's going to hit his head right over here. It's going to hit right there. It's going to really hit his armor. That's the whole point of us doing it there. It's going to hit right there, and its side arm right there. It's gonna go all the way. It's gonna start to fade. The farther away the light source is, the less is gonna show off. Kind of goes out there. So now we gotta start worrying about where the shadows are. Our main shadows is underneath his little hip pauldron thing, where his leg is gonna cast a shadow from his other foot. He's gonna have a shadow because his arm is round. He's gonna have a cast shadow right here because of his other arm. Shadow right here because these pauldrons are gonna be round. Gonna pull across. He's gonna have a shadow right here because of his arm, because of his chest cavity going right there. Line that up. He'll have a small shadow because this cup is actually going to be slightly in front. It's kind of pulled a little bit in front of him. It's not completely off to his side. It's going to be a little bit of cast shadow right there. It's cast shadow because of the sword dagger thing he has. And around there. Alright, so now you know what's the problem with this though is as we started painting it, it painted over our lines don't want. But because this is just a very, very basic, we're just trying to map out where all the lights are going to be. I'm just going to go and lower down my opacity. Because the light, I'm not worried about completely preserving 100% black lines because the lines are going to be completely gone by the time we're done with this. So I just want to be able to still read where my lines were at this stage. But because now that we have a general conciseness of where all the lights are going to be, this is where you can split off into two ways. You can go, if you're more comfortable with values, you can start working up your values more, just painting in black and white.
I'll be right back, Dave.
But if you're more comfortable working in color, like I usually am, I could go straight into working in some color choices and try figuring out what we can do with the colors, and then I can work the values in with the colors later. So we can go either way. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys decide what way you want to see me. Do you want to see me do this in black and white for a little bit longer, or do you want to see me just dive into color right away? I'll give you guys a little bit to answer. While I'm waiting for the answers, I'm just going to lightly do a little bit more. Just kind of back, because I kind of overpowered some of these cast shadows a little bit. Want to do color? Alright, we can do color. I am perfectly good with doing color. Alright, sounds good. Think we got to our consensus for doing color. Cool. Alright, so for those of you who don't know how to add color to a black and white, because I know there's tons and tons of YouTube videos about it, and I get that question quite a lot, and there is no specific one way to add color. You can do a few different ways, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a bit to show you the different ways you can kind of do it, because I want to be able to show these quick tips to you more than just showing you an hour worth of rendering, because rendering is just me making the pretty picture, and you guys can go see a speed paint of that. But a lot of times you don't get to sit and watch and have your questions answered like this. So let's go ahead and show you a few different ways of adding color into something. So the one way, if you don't have a super detailed lighting situation, you can actually go in with a normal layer and a normal layer, and you can actually start blowing in your colors right on top. Because you have your opacity jitter on, you're not going to really cover over everything right away. And this was going to give you a more true or correct color right off the bat. And I'm not really choosing any good colors to begin with. I'm just showing you guys this as a thing. So I could just go in normally, add in. You can see where there's still that value change is very faint, especially where the line work is. And then from there, it helps you kind of just start picking your shadows and you start working it right away. That's one way to do it, and I would only do that, like I said, if you have a very either very simple thing in general, like maybe just a grass square, or if you have a very simple lighting situation, like it's just all subsurface lighting, there's no cast shadows. But because this is going to work up to be a more detailed piece, what I would do instead is I'd make a layer, and I typically would go down to color, which is a whole. So you just go into this blending mode and you go down to color, and I just start adding it directly onto it. because what it's going to do is it's going to keep all of those value changes in there, and it keeps it pretty well. The only problem with the color layer is if your values are just slightly off and they're not completely 100% where they're going to be, like for instance they are here. Um, Sometimes your color layer is not going to work with the same color that you want it to be. So what I suggest is if you're doing it this way, have a separate color layer for each specific color that you're going to be working with for one at this stage. We can collapse it all later, but what you want to do is you want to do each separate color on a separate layer. So if we have orange pants, which isn't going to stay that way because it's an eyesore, I start another layer, not luminosity, color layer, and maybe we'll do a bright blue kind of top. Now, because I did that, maybe I decided that this color, this bluish purple, did not work the way I wanted it to. I want it to be a more saturated color, but over here, it should have been as saturated as it is, because that's what this is. But because it's a color layer, it doesn't work out the way we want it to. So we can do Control U, and now we can control the hue and the saturation of it through our sliders. Lightness and with color layers, just real quick, lightness and darkness is going to do basically just does saturation at the same time because of how a color layer works. But we can change the hue of it a little bit more. Like maybe I decide I like the teal bit more. But now we have that, we still keep that same orange color that we liked from before. Versus if they was on the same layer, and we control U, we would have no control over it. It would be selecting both things, and because they're on the opposite sides of the color wheel right now, they're going to always be on the opposite side of the color wheel. No matter what hue we change them, they're always going to be on the opposite, and it's going to be selecting the different colors on the wheel. Yes, you could select it like that for you, but in the end, I found personally it's easier just to have a separate layer and just do it that way. They won't say. When you do a character or object design, how do you make color choices? What effects would color have on design? Okay, this is important too. This is a very good thing I wanted to get into too. Um, Color has a very, very, very large amount of power that you can put behind a design, and that's why whenever I see a color concept design, I love it way more than seeing a black and white color design, because you can only do black and white. So black and white just shows the design right there. But if you're doing maybe this guy is from a specific tribe, we'd want to have the same overall kind of color choices throughout the entire piece that shows that he's part of that tribe. Maybe this tribe only wears orange and blue together. No other tribe wears orange and blue together because that's their tribe. Um, and there's little cues like that that you need to think of before you add in color. Like I would never just start laying in color like I just did, because I was demonstrating it. But if I was doing if when we're actually start really doing it, I need to start thinking about all the things that I know about the IP, or if because I'm working in for Bethesda on this game, I would have a little bit more back knowledge of what everything is going on. So maybe I know this tribe, and I know this tribe only does blue and oranges together. That would happen. Maybe these people are bright and happy people. They would typically probably wear a little bit, they'd be more open to wearing pastels or just lighter colors in general. Maybe if they're dark and they're pirates and they're mean people, they'll be wearing a lot of dark, dark reds, dark grays, and they have design choices would play a part of that too. Wearing these heavy armor, or this just they'd be bloodied, and all that is the blood and the dark. It's all color theory. It's all we're trying to show the mood of the character. So like this instantly, like, to me, actually, this screams Goku from Dragon Ball Z right off the bat. But this is, to me, it's like a happier color. It's, it's is showing, maybe he's good. He could be the good guy. But if we change it and we make this like Joker colors, and we make it, or maybe we make the overall, oops, and maybe we do a adjustment layer over everything. Levels, where's levels? Oops, wrong thing. That's why. If I do levels, wrong way. Make it darker, and it'll be less saturated. I work more into it. But if you do darker colors and, a little bit less saturated, maybe it'll start looking a little bit darker, a little bit more menacing. Now he looks like Joker because, like I said, we're gonna be stuck on that color wheel theory because we combine that layer. So now they're always gonna be opposite sides of the color wheel. But if we change that, or maybe we decided, boom, overall he should be wearing, you know, just these dark red tones here and there, but the rest of them is black. It starts to look darker, more really, yeah. All that kind of, because DC uses a lot of purples and greens for their bad guys, because that's their move that they're trying to do. Um, dark colors and dark things are gonna look bad and menacing and dark, versus the happy colors. If we had blues, naturally we naturally go towards blue being a heroic color, behind that, but that also comes down to, it's a cliched now that almost in everything, the cooler colors are the heroes, and the darker and the warmer colors are the villains. Just like how green and yellow usually do like a sickly plague type color. And there's just stuff like that. So yeah, so now, how do I actually go about doing it? Is just a matter of knowing the backstory. It's all about thinking nonstop in my head. Is this a bad guy? Is this a good guy? We know he's sarcastic. Maybe it's gonna have some, maybe he's gonna be a little bit happier than other people. So maybe even if he was a dark character, if he was one of those like stupid sarcastic people, maybe he'd have like some random pop of color. Um, well, yeah, blue's actually very heroic. Think of like World of Warcraft and like their the human guild, the Knights Guild is all blue, and all, blue and gold is a lot of happy colors, um, with heroes, and dark reds, and these oranges, and even going to, like I said, the greens and even the purples, like purples and greens together. Um, you can also, if you want to make someone look uneasy, you can do a yellow and a purple. It's just a color that a lot of people makes it feels uneasy to people. Um, yeah, you never play well. But WoW is just an example. It's thrown out through a lot of places that blue is a hero character. It's it's just a cliche that's been used a lot, so it's accepted by a lot of people that blue versus you see red. You can versus a dark red. Let's not say bright red, because it can be also just the main character. That comes into it too, is knowing what colors draw the eyes to people more. Obviously, a red most attention always. That's why stoplights are red in most places. Red draws the most attention. It demands attention right away. Like even if I completely did this guy up and he was completely all done and rendered, spot what your eyes will go directly to that, because it demands attention right away. And that's why I like to add, like, if there's something I want to draw attention to, like a little emblem, like maybe he has a, maybe this guy is gonna have his little tribe symbol emblem thing, in a tone of red if I can get away with it, because your eye is gonna naturally go to that little thing. Like even that little bit, even if I, oh, whoops, yeah, if I delete that big old thing, now your eye goes to that little red dot trying to figure out what it is. And it's just one of the things you gotta study color theory, and you're gonna get it down a little bit more. And pay attention to color. It's not just studying; it's just overall paying attention. If you're watching a movie, start realizing, why does this character? Why does when that character first walked in? How did you automatically know he was going to be a bad guy? Have you ever noticed that? Like, if you're watching a DC movie, if you didn't know who Superman was, or you didn't know who, let's see, here, we'll use Batman as an example. Batman. You would not think Batman would be a superhero if you didn't know Batman was a superhero. Because he's all in dark clothing, he looks creepy, he has a creepy design going on. So it's things like that where you just gotta pay attention and start realizing what makes things read to you. Because 9 times out of 10, if it makes you feel a certain way, it's gonna make another person feel the same way too, and it's gonna be a standard for, especially when you're watching a movie, because that's what they're trying to convey. And if you're doing environments, you've got to know color theory, because that's gonna throw in a big point into it, which is why if you're doing we're getting way off topic, talking about characters, and now we're talking about thumbnails. Um, uh, let's say blue skies, green, happy. Wrong way. Green, happy. We see these two colors. It seems like it's you seem pleasant, it seems serene. But now if we turn this and we turn this into like a dark red color like this, we're thinking it's like a lava world, it's heat, it's something bad, um, and all that kinds of stuff. No problem. I know I got way off topic on it. It's just I love color, so if anyone asks me about something with color, I get way into it. Um, but let's go ahead and get back into it. Get back onto schedule. So now, I don't remember what that was. I'll just delete it. Who cares? And this was that color about doing that. Boom. So anyways, adding color into grayscale. We can do it by saying normal layer and just opaquely painting on top of it if we had a very low detail thing. If we had overlay layers, we get the overlay, but we gotta be careful of using those color choices. We're gonna delete this levels layer. And then we can also use an overlay layer instead of color. You can use overlay. Where is it? Overlay. It pretty much does the same thing as color, except for um, it goes on. It paints on a little bit differently than color. Just choose whatever one works for you. Like in this specific instance with these values, overlay is working a little bit more. It's a little bit more accurate because like this color is pretty much what this is. Or pink. This pink is going to come off pink. Um, it all comes down to what your values is looking like, though. So X that out. So now, let's go ahead, and now that we talked about that, let's get back into actually designing this character. We know he is from Elder Scrolls. So there's a lot of muted colors in Elder Scrolls. Now, if we look at our reference that we pulled up from the last episode, we see a lot of muted colors. We see a lot of browns, and like the reddish tone and yellow. That's coming a lot, in at least what we have right now. I'm not saying that's the only colors in here. There's also a lot of blues from the mountaintops and a lot of grays, but overall it's a very muted color scheme. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use this. We're gonna use this kind of reddish brown color. Just gonna go and add it in. I am using the overlay layer because, like I said, it's the most accurate for me right now. I'll pull that in there. Now, when you're doing a character, you want to balance out your materials or balance out your colors of what you're doing. So we have a lot of color of brown color up here. We wouldn't want to leave that just up there. We'd want to balance out the character by having it somewhere on the bottom. So our easy thing to do is just add it for the boots. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Just say he has brown boots. Maybe we can tip off right here, just kind of working it all the way down to the boot. Um, I like the yellow for the gauntlet area type, so we can pick. We'll still go towards a brown, but it'll be the overall theme we'll have it be an overall theme of brown, and it'll just be different tones of brown within that. So now we're gonna have a more yellow tone of brown come in here. And no, we're gonna keep those silver. We're gonna have this. His under material can be this kind of light brown. How about that? That will connect it a little bit better. And you notice how I'm keeping it under one pass. I'm not stroking it a bunch of different times like that, because what that's gonna do is that's gonna distort the color. That's gonna add a different, just another layer, another layer of saturation to it. And I kind of like that kind of muted one pass look, so we're gonna go one pass over it all. And once again, that just comes down to that's how overlay works. And you won't know that unless you actually start experimenting and find out. Add that in there. Maybe he has a tidbit of a fingerless glove on underneath, and that can be that bright color to overdo that. We'll go ahead and you know what? I'm not sure about that, so I'm gonna make a new layer with overlay. And so I'm not sure if I like his entire pants being this bright brown. That's why I made a new layer real quick, because we can go back later and we can change the color if we decide to. So I'm gonna leave it like that for a second, and if we don't like it, I'm gonna change it once I do a pass over everything. So I'm gonna make a new layer, overlay again. Let's see. Let's see. Now I'm thinking in my head. We'll go with the reddish brown again. Maybe add that little bit there, so it's a little bit more. I like that for that too. That works. That works. And let's see. I'm just kind of seeing what's out there, what we have. There's purples in this guy. We could do that, but I think we're gonna go for the greens that I saw over here. Maybe we like. I think I like that for the pants actually. So let's go back over here. So So, Blacksmith, it's just like I said, it's just a matter of I'm just trying to figure out what marries together well. Even though, and it comes from part of it comes from practice and just being able, the confidence of just being able to lay it down on there. But even though it's all brown, it's all just different tones of brown, and I got that all that was in here. I was just looking at it and going, hey, you know these are red or browns in here, but then it goes back down to like a standard middle ground brown, and then there's some greens up in here, up in this guy, and then there's a lot of greens up in that guy. Um, and there is a lot of yellower tones in this one up here. And it's just a matter of trying to just figure out what works and what doesn't work. Um, like I'm even thinking about maybe changing and having some dark gray or even black leather somewhere in here. But I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put that without breaking apart what we have going on right now. Um, where was that layer right there? I'm going to erase off the pauldron here. I wanted the pauldron and I wanted the covers to stay that kind of metal steel look. So what we're gonna do is metal is not actually gray; it's actually blue. It's like a very diffused blue. Pull that in there. Pull those in there. Yeah, yeah. Metal is actually a bluish tone. Generally, um, metal is actually not just it's not just blue per se. It's a lot of different colors in there. It's you got, especially if we want to be technical speaking, if this guy is wearing his armor, it's going to be getting used. It's going to be scraping against rocks. It's going to be scraping against metal. It's going to have paint transfers on it from other things. It's going to have rust on it. It's going to have that brown red rust on it. It's going to be reflecting off a little bit of the light that's coming down, so it may even have like yellow from the sunlight coming off of it. It's going to have a lot of different colors. It's going to be picking all that up. So now we got to also figure out. I like the kind of gray fur that's there, but we're gonna keep it as like a light gray fur. Kind of a light gray. So even though I put it to 100% white, I just kind of chose that as a brightness thing. It's never gonna actually go to 100% white because it's being limited down by the actual values that's there, except for right there I went white. Um, just kind of choosing where I want some more fur to be. Maybe there's a little bit of fur coming over here. Maybe we may delete that later. And then we gotta worry about his little dagger thing. I figure out what his dagger colors were. So there was they were wrapped in that brown with that little bit of metal there. Overall, it's kind of like the in-game thing is a little bit muted, just a muted gray, dark gray. So add that in there. Put that in. Put that in there. He has that pop of red. And once again, because we're adding that little pop of red, I don't want to overdo it. As I'm not nearly gonna put as much as they put in here, like with all that glowing red, because I don't want it to completely pop off. I may just kind of do just like this little tidbit right there, just enough to show that that your mind can connect with it as it being that kind of weapon without it completely demanding that much attention. And we're going to counterbalance that a little bit because of his red face paint. It's not going to be as bright, nearly as bright as that, but it's going to have that red tone that also demands some attention from them. Skin tones. Now we got to worry about skin tones. Now these guys are usually a bit pale. We'll go and go for like this, and we'll change it later if we don't like it. New layer, overlay. Yeah, I couldn't remember if we settled on the cybernetic arm or not. I think we will also will go in with that as metal. I will do that in 1 second here too. Pop that in there. Tip it off his real hand right here, and we'll keep that the cybernetic arm then. And that's another trick. If we're gonna make this cybernetic arm thing going off, we want to put that in front so that you can obviously see that right away. And we're going to add in this. I like this toned kind of purplish red face paint she had on her. We'll add that on there. That, yeah, it does include that. Okay. If you need to select a color that's already laid down as an overlay, you want to switch it to normal, then select it, and then go back to overlay. Because remember, it doesn't lay down to the same color it actually is. So we're going to go and pop that in real quick just to fix that little bit. Erase his eyeballs right there. Erase his other eyeball right there. Now, I'm not worrying about all the little colors. Hold on, guys. The dog's barking. Sorry. I think someone just knocked on the door. Alright. I apologize for that, guys. Shut up. Yeah, someone just knocked on the door, that's why. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. But as far as how much I make, we won't really go into that too much. I'm just gonna say it was a decent amount for the work that was being done. You gotta remember, it depends on what your work. It depends on what you're working on. Like when I was doing indie stuff for like the UI design, of course I'm gonna pay a little bit less than doing like a full blown character designs for works, because I can typically in the UI projects that I've done, I can do the full UI for a mobile game in 1 day and get that all done. But like if I was doing character design, it would take me a day or two to finish just one of those characters versus being able to get the whole project done in 1 day. So it varies a lot. All I will say is be careful with the indie companies. Some of them are just trying to get you to do free or cheap work. Some of them are trying to legitimately just don't have the funds to get you maybe what you exactly deserve. But you just got it just kind of goes down to just working them out. What did Sana say? I see most artists drawing from a rough sketch to detailed. I usually draw very detailed from the start. Is it fast? I'll do the same thing. I'll go and I'll start drawing really detailed if I know exactly what's going in my mind right away. A lot of people start off rough because they don't 100% know exactly where they're going to be going with something. But if they have the clear vision directly in the head of what they want to look like, cool. Just be careful with that, because sometimes if you start really detailed, you'll zoom. Like if you go in and you start, maybe you'll start doing a perfect little eye, and then you start doing the perfect nose and the perfect lips, and then you zoom out, and then you realize the face is all jacked up because you didn't start rough. You didn't have a rough foundation for the face first. You didn't go off and you didn't start doing. You didn't go off. You didn't do the standard. Start with a circle. Have your guidelines. Have your head like that. Um, yes, it does. It does really make it pop. Versus just going straight in and start doing, your perfect eye and your perfect other eye, and then you have a nose, but then you start zooming in, you start working on these lips super, super detailed and perfectly, but then you zoom back out and realize that that's way too low. So you just gotta be careful with stuff like that. I kind of like him with that ashy white hair. It kind of adds, maybe it's that little bit of pop to him. We gotta remember too, guys, when we're working on this, he is a side character, so we don't want him to pop out too much as like the main character will. However, we gotta find that middle ground where he doesn't just blend in with every other person there. The face paint really helped that already, and so we don't want to go too far, and showing off that the red dagger kind of helped that too. So I don't want to push too much to make him pull into a main character, which I'm fearing is happening right now. But we'll see how it goes. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave the hair alone for right now, and just work on everything else. And then if I decide later I want to keep it or change it, I'll do that. I was thinking the same thing actually, Carol. Yeah. Okay, so now that we got the basic colors down, give or take, besides, hold on, we got John on this, right? Wherever it is. There it is. Erase it. Boom. I like that goldish color. So gold's another one of those challenging things for new beginning artists. Gold they always think of as instantly yellow. It's not yellow. It's actually a very saturated orange that in the highlights turn yellow. Um, so we're just gonna add that, and you notice how there's absolutely no detail to this at all. It's just kind of there, versus like the gauntlet that looks like even this or these high tech cybernetic type arms. I really like right there. It's very, very blurry because it's a really small reference, but I like how they did that. But and I like that little symbol thing they have going. We'll probably take that symbol and use it. However, I don't want to completely take from Skyrim themselves, so we have to be careful with that. But because of this demonstration of working with an existing IP, we'll probably do that, and then I'll go back and take it off later if I decide I want to keep this for my own thing. But looking back at it too, I like this kind of. We're just gonna do that very, very rough highlight right there. This looks like complete and utter crap right here, but it works for now. All it is it's giving me the information in my head to remember that that's going to be metal later, because I'm not going to remember that that's metal if I left it as that blank, as that just completely blank, bland brown. It looks like wet leather now, yeah. But to me, it reminds me, hey, there's a harsh highlight there. Something's going on with it. Obviously, and then I'm going to go back to remembering why did I put that highlight there, and to remind me that I needed to do that. Alright, so now there's a plane going by. For all of you new guys here, I live right next to an air base, so there's a lot. It's a training Air Force base, so there's a lot of planes going by sometimes, and they tend to be completely quiet unless I'm doing a stream. Once I start streaming, they go over all over the place. So now we have all the colors down, and I'm pretty happy with what they are. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and collapse all of these overlay layers together. That was the normal layer. Two, right there, right there, right there. Okay. Just select them all, Control E. It's going to kick them back to normal. And I don't know why Photoshop does that. It just kicks it all back to normal. And we'll just kick it back to overlay. It'll pop everything back to how it's supposed to be. Boom. This can be deleted. We don't need that layer anymore. This was our highlight. Now, I don't know. I'm going to make that very, very faint. You guys probably can't even see where that is now. But it's just enough, once again, to tell me where that light source is. So if I zoom in and start working with it, I still know where the light source is. Boom. And where is... Sorry, I'm losing my mind here. Oops. That's where all those artifacts are, and that's where that artifact. Okay. Erase. Now just going back, I'm just going to erase some of these little artifacts going around here. What you can also do is find wherever the silhouette is and Control Shift. Alright, so what I just did, if you guys didn't see it, I went back to the original silhouette where everything is, and I hit Control, so I select everything that was on that layer, which is the silhouette, and then I also hit Control and Shift, so I can also copy the line work that happened, because we went a little bit outside of the silhouette for the line work. And now I'm going to go to that overlay layer and just Control Shift I to invert it, and then Control X, and that just erased all these little faded color lines, just completely erased for us. Boom. And then I'm going to take this and just erase more of these little artifacts over here that we didn't need. Boom. Boom. Okay, I'm learning how to use my techniques properly with the basics. Yep, that's what you have to do. Just start with the basics and just keep on adding to it. That is something that you have to practice with, right? I mean, a beginner can't just see the small highlights yet on my computer. I don't want to say no, they can't, because if some people just have, I'm not going to say talent, because I'm not going to open up that can of worms right now, but if some people are just naturally able to see things differently than other people are trying to see things. Like, I'm naturally, I can see color pretty well. Like, where another person may say, this looks a little bit more like a purple tone, I'll be able to say, it's actually blue, and I can prove, I can color pick and prove that was actually part of the blue thing. But with like highlights, I was always really bad at doing the highlights for some reason and seeing those highlights. But yeah, my wife, who is does not really do art, she's not really, she's creative, but she doesn't do this nearly as much as I do. She's not a professional at it whatsoever. She's still really good at seeing things that I would never be able to see unless I was like, really, really trying to look for it. So, it's a yes and no. Is this something you need to train your eye? Yes. Is it possible to train your eye to do it? Yes, definitely. It's one of those things where it's going to take longer for others than it will for others. Okay, so now all those little artifacts are gone right there. Now I'm just doing kind of cleanup duty, just making sure it looks crisp and clean here and there. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit interesting. If I was working for an indie company and they were not paying me, as you know, they weren't paying me, a completely butt ton of money, I would offer them and I tell them, okay, I understand you have a budget to work with. You can't afford a bunch of little details like that. But at the same time, I need to make sure that I'm doing what I'm, worth doing. I call it at this and say, okay, it's not the most detailed, it's not the most rendered, but you get a solid character that you'd have. I'd probably render a little bit more. Now I'm looking at clean up some of the lines a little bit, but I tell them, based on just how little or how much the indie company is paying me, I tell them, hey, look, this is what you're going to be getting for this price. Um, if your budget is more, we can definitely go towards more stuff that more of the finished stuff that you can see in my portfolio. Or you could even go, or what I like to do is, hey, there's this. Once you come back with a successful Kickstarter, I'd be happy to go back in and we can render this even more. Because Kickstarter projects are very, very hard to work with because they either offer little money or no money at all until they say, hey, let's get a Kickstarter going. We'll pay, once the Kickstarter is up and running and we get all the money from Kickstarter, you're going to be paid a boatload of money because we like your work and we stayed with you and it is awesome. If they're super, super successful on the Kickstarter, they may go off, they may leave you high and dry, and they may go pick an actual, a bigger artist that they know they can afford that they really, really like, or their Kickstarter wasn't successful at all, and you just wasted a month or two of your time and work doing a free project that you never got paid in the end to see it later. Um, so I try to cover my bases, and I'd rather lose 5 hours of work to a quote unquote free indie thing versus spending 20 hours on a quote unquote free indie thing. And that's not to be confused with doing bad art. That's not to say, hey, you're only paying me $50 to do this. I'm not going to really try. I'm not going to really, try my hardest to do it. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying do what do what you're worth in your time. When you're doing indie rates and just rates in general, you're going to be doing it off of your time. Even if you charge like it's going to take me $150 to finish this piece. You came up with that number because you said you're worth $7 an hour, and it's going to take you this many hours to make that. 7 times this many hours is $150. That's what it's going to cost. That's how you come up with the rate. So if you're telling them it's only cost, they can only afford $50 to do something, and it's going to take you way more than $50 worth of hours to complete a painting. Tell them, hey, look, this is how much it would be to do a completed painting. What I can do is I can strip down the details a bit, and we can just work on something like this, and maybe even I'll have like a folder for this type of stuff. I can show them that level of detail and say, hey, you guys can get this much if you want, if you can only afford this much, or bump it up a little bit. I can add a little bit more detail, maybe put a little bit more rendering into it, and go like that. I'm just saying that because I know we had the question about indie rates before. But now let's go ahead and let's start rendering this because we don't work for an indie company. We work for Bethesda, and we're awesome, and we're going to get this finished. So now, let's work on the face a little bit because I like working on the face. That's not to say don't stay zoomed in and don't stay working on one part for very long, especially when you're concept design, because you never know when your art director is going to breathe over your neck and tell you, hey, I want to see what you have right now. If you zoom out and you have a face and you have nothing else, you're screwed because they're not going to like it. But like you can get away with it right here because, like I said, most of it's done. I probably should work on this gauntlet first because if anything, I want to be able to show that a little bit more. They can get away with, they can model off of everything else. They know what everything else is. You can tell what everything else is, but that you would never be able to tell if that is a high-tech cybernetic, arm right now. Want to work for Riot? Riot's cool. Learn your colors. Make sure you get really, really good with colors if you want to work for a Riot, because they do a lot of good color theory with their work. Zion's working on his own comic book. That's cool. That's cool. I did some storyboards and a comic project before that. The comic project didn't pan out, but the storyboard was cool. I like doing it for a change every now and then. Alright, getting back to this. So, we had the colors down, we had this layer down. I don't know what this was. Oh, that was a highlight layer. So, this is a trick that a lot of people get confused about. And I know I had to teach Foxman this before. If you want to collapse all these, but they're on a different layer, like this is an overlay, this is a normal. If you do this, it's going to kick that to normal, and you're not going to be able to go back to overlay. That's going to kick the one before into an overlay too. So what you do is you highlight them, you duplicate them all, and then you do it. And for some reason, it doesn't kill it. I don't know why they do that way, but it just works. It just doesn't kill it as badly as if you just collapse them all and then you're stuck with them in one. Uh, it, Basically, if you just collapse it, it kicks that overlay mode into normal. If you duplicate it and collapse it, it doesn't kick it to normal. It keeps it together. I don't know why it's done that. It always does that. It's just one of those things you gotta get used to. But let me just catch up on the chat real quick. Yeah, I mean, if that's your dream to do it, then just work for it, and then you will get there. I suggest start studying up on what they do. You know how their art is. If you don't know, on YouTube they do have their they show art of them doing their splash screens, which is really, really cool when they do that. It's like a speed painting videos of how they're doing their splash screens. But they work a lot with a lot of color, so you gotta make sure you know your colors down and have your portfolio kind of tiered towards the stuff that they do. Maybe even add one or two fan art pieces of them, but make sure you have your original stuff in there too, so that they know that you're able to do that. Oops, whoops. Don't know how that happened. Okay, pop that back. Maybe that one back. All right, let's go ahead and get back into it now that I caught up on chat. So the reason why I went ahead and duplicated is I want to just be able to. I like to, even though I work with a lot of layers, when I'm actually painting, I like to go back to just that one layer that works like a real painting would. Like I just paint over them, and then if I mess it up, I got to paint it in. So we're going to go back and group those again. Two. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make those a red group, showing that red, and you got to have a little like color scheme if you're going to do it like this way. I know in my head that red is always a preliminary, not needing a lot of things. I won't need to go back to it, but I don't want to get rid of it. Okay, so we have a little weird light speck coming from right there. I don't know why that happened. I'm going to go with the chalk brush here. Nice. I don't know why I'm using that. Okay, that was weird. Put that off there. When I render, I like to paint fast. It just kind of keeps my mind going. And like because it's a concept design, I'm not worrying about like typically if this was a full blown like if this was a production design and this was it, this is what people are going to see. I would be really careful about making sure like these black outlines are gone and it looks realistic and it looks perfect and all the little artifacts and stuff are completely gone and it's really really polished and everything. But that's not the case. This concept design. Only people who's going to look at this is your art director and 3D modeler, and that's pretty much it. Unless you're getting people looking at it in an art book who, once again, if 9 times out of 10, if they're ordering an art book, they know what they're getting themselves into. They're not going to expect completely polished painting. They're going to be looking at the rough concept design, the idea stage of everything. Like I'm not even worried about completely blending in all these characters, all these little details here. I just want to give a little bit more than just a flat, like cell shaded color. Also goes back into time. Just figuring out how much time you have and how much uh, if the project timeline is saying, hey, you have a week to finish the character, you can go in and you can completely clean this up and make it look super super pretty. If they're saying, hey, you gotta finish this in a day, that's when you gotta just worry about getting the most out as you can. Yes, I do have my own website. I don't know if because I'm the thing. I don't know if I can send a link. So what I'll do is I will go around it and I will show you real quick. Go down. It's very simple. It's just my name, TERENCEFELTON.com. The spelling's right there for you guys. And just .com, and this will come up. You can see the illustrations, concept art, design, and all that fun stuff. I won't show it just because this is under Artcore's group. It's not my personal channel, so I don't want to overly advertise myself versus the group. Yeah, I'm also Obviously, you guys can find me in the Facebook group, and feel free to send me a message on there. I'm always there to reply for you guys. Not feeling mixed flesh. Not really. I just kind of, in all honesty, I haven't really given it a fair shot. This is how I learned to paint. I learned to paint with just painting opaquely and just kind of popping in colors like this. Every once in a while, I'll go back to it just to kind of mix things up and just kind of change it. But 9 times out of 10, I'm painting like this. Do you have any suggestions on masters to study from when it comes to colors? Um, James Gurney is the biggest one. Obviously, I think anyone's going to be able to say that. James Gurney, he has a book called Color and Light. It's like 20 or 30 bucks. Make sure you pick that up. Read it all the way through from beginning to end, like 6 or 7 times. It's great. Um, Make sure my personal favorite artist, Mike Lim or Darkin. He says he's not really good with color, but he actually is now. His older pieces were lacking it, but now he's really good at doing shadows and cast shadows from buildings and stuff. His stuff is really really cool. Yep, that's it, Buxman. That's the one I was saying. Um, if you have if you go to Imagine FX, their magazine, they focus a lot on color. A lot of their issues are color too, and that's good too. Yeah, they're very good. I really like the Kearney books. It teaches you a lot. You gotta for me, I had to read over it like twice and then start painting like along with it. Dave Raposa is really good at lighting, which helps with color. He's really good with it because he'll show like a lot of stuff is on lighting. He's one to go into black and gray for a long, long time, and then he pops in color at the last minute. But when he does pop in the color, he's really good at making sure his shadows are contrast to his highlights and all that fun stuff. He just doesn't do one pass with the color. We're gonna erase these kind of black lines around from where we outline the face paint. Actually, I did go over here to it was like that little spike thing we decided to do. That up there. Be a little bit thing there. There. It's pretty dark. We're gonna add in some more light to his cheeks here. Put that in there. Yep, that's the way, Zon. If I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. I'm just gonna call you. I'll just call you by your last name, by Holly, just so I don't and unpronounce your name right. Now this nose is really, really messed up, so we're gonna have to fix his nose. The entire face really is messed up. If you guys saw me in the last one, I don't know why, but I was having a lot of trouble drawing his face that day. And looking back at it now, it's really, really messed up. So I do apologize for his face because I know it's really incorrect. God, I can't get over his face now. It's so bad. Okay. Pull this up there. Oh, that's funny. Okay. I mean, I'm just gonna. I really don't want to spend all my time just redoing a face for you guys. Ha ha ha. Face puns. We're gonna skip this right now. I know I really should redraw this face, but I don't want to spend all our time on the stream doing this because we actually only have about 30 minutes left, which I'm surprised it went by really, really fast today. But I don't want to spend all my time drawing the face over again. I think our next stream like this, which will be next Wednesday, since we're all back into the swing of things again, we're going to go back to our regular streams. I think we're going to be focusing on doing a rendering material, like metal versus like metal versus leather, um, maybe even do a separate one on skin, because skin has such different materials on it. But I'd really like to do like a material study with you guys, so you guys can see that there is a difference between rendering leather versus metal versus skin. Even though you approach it pretty much the same way, I'm gonna be painting it the same way. There's different ways to do it, and going about doing it's a little bit different. There, that highlight in there, there. But now I'm trying to speed through a little bit because I know it's the time, so I'm gonna kick it up a gear real quick. But this guy gives us like this one thing gives us a lot of different topics to talk about, so it's easy to spin off and start talking a bunch of different other things that don't have to deal with the actual character himself. I'll go on this highlight real quick here. Let's see, there's going to be dents and scratches around here. Pull it there, pull this there. There. Brush. Just add that little highlight on the edge of his armor there. Pull that in there. Catch that over there. There'll be some brown, some rust like we were talking about before. Just add in different colors into it so it's not so one colored. Put that in. Make that highlight a little bit better. Highlight there. Okay, pull this in here. When you're rendering clothing, just remember that clothing picks up shadows more than it will highlights. Pull this in here. Pull that in there. Pull that there. Sorry if I'm not talking as much. Like I said, I'm just trying to speed this up a little bit, trying to kind of play catch up for a second until the next big topic comes up that I get to distract myself with. You could decide it's coming from right there, right here. Okay. There won't be as much about shadow unless there's a big dip like that. And then that in there. Keep that dark. Yeah, I do have tests for rendering metal surfaces. Like Foxman said, I don't want to get too far into it because I don't want to give out all my secrets because that's going to come up in the next one. But just as a tidbit, if you want to do it, You want to make something really, really shiny. Have one of your dark, like your Terminator lines is gonna come up right next to where like your highlights are gonna be. Oops. That helps things make it really glossy right away. Just that little bit, it makes it look more glossy. Don't be afraid to go super, super light on your highlights if you're doing a glossy surface. Um, and then also remember that things are going to be picking up light around it. So if you're in like a forest environment, if you're getting really, really detailed, you may find some like little lines from tree branches reflecting off of it. Um, there's a lot of different things to do. Lots and lots of things. Like I know for this specific metal, I want it to be scratched up, and maybe that like sheen was completely just stripped off of it now, so it's just all rough. And it's the rougher the metal gets and the less shiny metal gets, the closer it looks like to stone. Um, I'm starting to lose some of this color here. We're gonna fix that. Pull that in there. A little bit of wrinkles there. Some wrinkles right over there. Pull that there. Maybe add just a little bit more dark to it because yeah. Okay, pull that in there. So like I said, remember when you're rendering material, um, like this type of material, just remember that it is a lot of shadows, not a lot of highlights. It's more shadows and highlights. So I'll pull this in there. Just trying to erase a lot of the heavy black lines that were in here. There is that cash out. There is this cash out from his arm. But what I'm going to be doing is after we get this to a rendered state, what I'll do is I'll make a quick layer real quick with an airbrush, and I'll just do a corresponding shadow to what that is. That's how you can do an easy cash shadow. Because what you want to do with the cash shadow is you want to make sure that everything underneath is still rendered, because it's not in front, it's not blocking any of that detail from behind. It's just a different value covering it. This way we get to render what's underneath it without actually having to deal with having that darker tone in between it. And there. So we're gonna start getting to the point. You're gonna start seeing it where when you start doing this rough rendering in between, things start to look muddy, and they not really muddy, but just kind of it's not as polished as it was before because you're gonna get to that point where you just gotta burst through it, and everything looks really mixed up, and you're like, okay, but it was more defined before, but now it's less defined somehow, but at the same time it's more defined. You have that really weird middle ground that you're gonna get into. Um, and then once you get to this point, then it gets into finding a little bit more, and then it pops through. And after you push through that little bit of discomfort of looking at it's all muddied up, it starts to look a lot better. Oh, thank you, Robert. I think what happened was I learned kind of backwards, and that's why I right now like it's somewhat hypocritical, but at the same time, I'm telling you guys from from experience, learn your fundamentals first. It makes your life so much easier. What I did was I got so excited about painting and about doing things that I started painting, and I was so worried about doing the rendering, and I wanted to make I wanted to make cool things that looked like it was metal, or cool things that looked like it was leather and clothing. I was so excited to do that that I completely threw perspective and proper anatomy. I threw all that stuff out of the window. So now, I had to go back. I had to start pushing myself and just sketching, just line work, just working on anatomy and working on perspective and all that fun stuff, and foreshortening and posing and all this fun stuff. That and it was hard for me not to just go and turn them into a full blown painting, um, because I want to just hurry up and run into doing that rendering stuff again. I had to pull myself back and say it's not the point of what we're doing right now. We're doing this to learn how to do a certain thing. And what's up, William? Welcome to the stream. Now, what I'm doing here is I zoomed out a little bit because I want to be a little bit loose with this chest piece right now because I honestly don't know 100% where I want to go with it yet. I'm not 100% on the design we have going for it. So I zoomed out a little bit. I'm gonna kind of let my brush strokes kind of do the work and see if there's any you know, happy accents that happen that I like better than I have right now. Because like I said, if we were doing this in the real life studio, we won't have time to rethink this. Once this is done, this is done. We don't get to have a choice of if we want to change it or not. So what we're doing is we're treating the system, and yes, we are working on this, and my mind is not on 100% on making a new design for this. But if it happens, it's oh, look at this. This happened while I was painting it. Do you like this better? And they'll be like, yeah, I like this 100% better. Like, I don't like how I have right here. I do not like it all where it's right here. I'm trying to figure out what I can do. Because like I can curve these, I can start to curve these a little bit more, but this bump starts to get a little bit too much when I start that. So I don't know, maybe. And my perspective is a little bit off on this guy. So what I'll probably do is I'll do a warp tool and push this center line is just slightly off right here. So I'll push it. I'll put a warp tool and I'll push that off a little bit. There. Let's work down here for a second. Alright, so if his dagger was in between his hip and his whole guard thing and this belt, remember there'd be a lump right here where the handle is. So we gotta make sure we do that when we start rendering it up. So we have the shadow right here from it just being a round object there. I'm gonna just select a random highlight color. Way too much. What's this one? There. There'd be a cast shadow from that. And remember, because the bump is thicker, it's usually there's that material, the actual material of the belt. It's not just a very very thin ribbon. It's actual thick material of belt. So the actual bump that happens from the handle is actually going to be just slightly wider than the actual handle itself. Foxman, are you saying that because you honestly think that, or are you saying that because you want to see me do it right now? Because I know you're working on that thing that could use that you could learn some texture stuff from. All right. Well, the this channel is actually a group. We have a Facebook group that you're free to join. It's all it's a community of different artists that we all critique each other's work, and we're all really nice about it. We're not mean like hey, this is completely screwed up. You need to just quit drawing in general. We're really nice. It's all constructive criticism. We do these streams every Wednesday, and then if you're part of the group, you also get to hang out with us too. With on Mondays and Fridays, we have a Google Hangout where it's just us hanging out and painting together, and you guys can get some tips if you want to. Because I'm always the one hosting them, and you guys get to hang out and paint along live with us if you want, if that interests you too, and that's on Mondays and Fridays. But I'm the interactive admin of the channel. I'm one of the many. Foxman is the other admin, which is why he's doing a lot of he's in the chat a lot. I'm 20 years old. Big 20, woo. I've been doing it since I was really young. My mother was an artist, so I naturally got into it, and I loved video games, and I knew right from the beginning that I wanted to do. I wanted to mix both of them. Yeah, and don't forget, the interviews. We had interviews all the time with great artists. Foxman, I don't want to say it out loud if it's not, but was the one for tomorrow, do you know if that was ever official? You can just say yes or no. You don't have to say exactly who it was. I don't want to say it out loud if it wasn't official. Oh, don't feel old, Nico. You can start. I mean, that's the great thing about it, is you can really start this at any point. Oh, always blame Luke. Always. But yeah, don't feel old. Like I said, I happen to know this is what I wanted to do for a long, long time. And there's tons of people way younger than me, way better than me too, because they want it too, and they were just really good at the same time. Um, oh, and see, that's not bad at all, Nico. I was lucky enough. I scored my first freelance job when I was 14, um, and it was free work. It was a Kickstarter piece. It was a Kickstarter game, and it never made it through. But I loved working on there, and ever since then, it was like this is what I'm going to be doing because I loved working with the group of people. And Photoshop's wigging out on me at the moment. Hold on, there it goes. Um, and I don't, like I said, I don't like to promote myself during these because this is for Artcore. However, I do have my own YouTube channel that I do post. I'm gonna start posting more, but I do like speed sketches and some speed paints every now and then. I post up there, um, and I'm gonna be starting to do my own speed uh, Twitch live streams. I don't know. You know, just doing everything from painting to playing video games and just hanging out. Um, and that's all. That's all I'll say. I'll leave it from there. You can find me just at my name or find me on Facebook. But like I said, I don't like to advertise on these streams, so that's all I'll say. Maybe I'll. I don't know. I really, really would like to finish this with you guys on these Wednesday streams. Um, but I think we need to move on to something else. So maybe next week we'll do the material rendering, and then the following um, the following week we'll go back to this guy again for a little bit. Yeah, I know, Fox, and that's why I'm like, oh, I don't want to promote myself at all. But it's one of those things where you guys seem interested in finding me, and I don't want to just kind of be like a hermit crab. If you guys are asking, I don't want to say no, you can't find me anywhere, but I don't want to promote myself at the same time. Um, okay, we got about 10 minutes left, and Foxman, I know you wanted to see this tankard thing being done. So what we're going to be doing is I am going to cheat and be fast at this. So what we're going to do, we're going to use my polygon tool, polygonal lasso tool, pull this, select the shape real quick, pop that, the size that a little bit. I'm not worried about that right away. we'll use a brown. Do we like? I like this brown, this orangey brown. Pull that in there. I'm going to rotate it just a little bit. It is a rounded object, so we're going to have, just like any cylinder, you pop those in like that. There we go. Yeah, usually there's other mods here with us, but they weren't aware. I guess they weren't aware that everything was starting up and everything was getting back together, right? Um, yeah, it's been a wild couple of weeks for the Artcore admin team. We've been all really busy with our families and getting with all the holidays and then getting back to the holidays and then always that little delay of not really wanting to come back from vacation, but at the same time needing to come back from vacation. I know I did not, for some reason, just we were supposed to be back a week ago, but for that other week, I did not want to sit on the computer. I wasn't into it, and I couldn't get myself around sitting at the computer for hours again. Okay, we're slowly running out of time, but I know we started a little bit late, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go over by like 3 or 4 minutes. That's it. So we're supposed to stop at 2. We're going to stop at 2:04 because I know we started late. And I want to get 2 hours, and I want to really get into this little thing. 8 to 10 minutes left. Where are you getting it, Fox? It's 57, isn't it? Yeah, it's 57. So I am going to open up my pictures, and I can't show you guys that because some things on here, except for, hold on, let me get into my hard drive, and we go into reference folder. Now I can show you guys. Oh, 10 minutes past 12. Okay, so we got to, okay, cool. Wood. So now I'm just trying to figure out. This is kind of cool because it has that metal rivet, but it's not the right angle. What's this? Interesting. Okay. Okay, you know what? We are going to go ahead and I like the texture that has, so we're going to pull this off into here. It's going to be super, super big. You draw all of these backgrounds. Oh, you mean the backgrounds that are on the Artcore channel and stuff? Because if that's what you mean, no, I did not. Those were from other artists that we've been featured or featuring. Rotate our. Oh, and guys, here's a tip that I just learned a while ago. If you're like me and you rotate your canvas around, which, by the way, I only do that because of it's just easier for my hand to go this way versus going this way. So if you're rotating your canvas a lot, you'll notice that it's hard to get back to the straight 100% without having to go into 0 and typing it. If you go into here and if you just hit C for crop tool, it fixes it right away. And it goes to 0% right away. Now I'm just trying to work this texture in a little bit, just trying to see what I can do for it. Let's cancel. So, boom, Control Shift X. Control U. I'm going to. I'm gonna keep the saturation. Usually, I'd turn them all the way down to a grayscale because usually the color is going to distort it a little bit or make it too saturated. But there's that little bit of green in there from that mossy wood that I use that I really, really like. So we're going to keep that. What I will do is Control L for the levels. And this lets you control like how dark the shadows are going to be and how light the highlights are going to be. Pull that in, and then at the same time we'll lower down this. So whoops. Overall opacity a little bit. Mess around with the layers mode. Multiply looks kind of good. I just want a hint of the texture. I don't want to overpower with it. I don't want to look like we used a photo for the texture. I like multiply the best. Because overlay just kind of looks like, you can tell it was a photo on top of it. But multiply just gives it that little bit of texture. Yeah, I like that. Control T, because I just noticed that little bit of lip there. Boom, erase. Erase that there. Erase that clip there. New layer there. Kind of pull that up there. that. Pull these little highlights here and there. Just kind of pushing it. I'm just kind of working the texture in, just kind of painting on top of the texture a little bit. Because I don't want to just plop a texture on there and then leave it there. You gotta actually work it in a little bit more. Erase that bit there. Lasso. This work. This kind of beveled out a little bit, but I can fix that later. Boom, brush. That there. That. Control warp. Pull that like that-ish. Yeah, it's fine. Deselect. Like new layer underneath it. Brush. Just pull that underneath there. Erase it right there. Brush. Boom. Erase one more time to smooth it out. Okay. Pull it there. Don't know what happened right there with that a little bit. What happened there? There we go. Okay. Boom. And you know what? Just as the lasting thing, we're going to use the dodge tool and just pop a little bit more highlight in there. And I'm going to leave it like that for now. And Terence, oh no. Oh boy, I need to grow an afro if I want to do that. Oh, yep, I think that's good. I think we're going to go and call it right here. Alright guys, so thank you all for coming in. Once again, we do these every Wednesday. Oh no, I can see them pouring in now. Oh no. Just badly Photoshop pictures of my face on Bob Ross's hair. Oh no. Alright guys, yeah, we're gonna go and call this. Like I said, we do these every Wednesday. If you're part of our Facebook group, you can also join our Discord and you can always chat like we do here right now. And if you join our Facebook group, once again, Mondays and Fridays, you can come hang out with us as well. Alright guys, so we're gonna go and end the stream. If I can figure out how to turn this off. Alright guys, see you later. Thanks for coming.